The Rural Economic Development Incentive Grant, or the REDI grant, was introduced in the 2018 legislative session. It took a revamp. They revamped it in the 2019 session, and so we wanted to provide all of the information the way the program is running now, in case you're not aware of those changes. But I'm not going to say what it was or how it is now. I'm just going to tell you like it is. So the REDI grant, there we go. The REDI grant equals jobs. It's a unique incentive, as this grant goes to businesses, whether the business is located in the rural county or not. So the grant money is for businesses located anywhere, creating new high-paying jobs in rural Utah. So the intent is to create new high-quality jobs in our rural communities in Utah. So this allows people to work where they live. The positions can be remote, online, at a satellite office, or local industry. I've listed here a few examples of some successful business applicants of the REDI grant and how it was used. For instance, truck driver position are working remote from their hiring transportation company. There's an online position as a writer, editor, and also we have a couple of software developer positions that are being done online. We have some satellite offices that have been set up. A civil engineering firm has set up an office in a few different rural counties, separate from their offices. And there are a number of local manufacturing companies expanding in their own rural counties, and they've taken advantage of the REDI grant. So for businesses, we also want to emphasize that especially on the Wasatch Front, it can be difficult filling those positions. And so this is an opportunity to insource in Utah versus outsource the skilled, educated labor force and with a great work ethic here in our rural counties. With the remote employees, there's low overhead. So that's an opportunity for the businesses to take advantage of this, as well as providing quality jobs in the rural counties. So the eligible counties to hire in, from Beaver to Wayne. Remember, the businesses can be located anywhere. The businesses can actually expand and remain where they are. So if you have a business that's not in one of these counties, there's opportunities for you to expand by hiring remote or online employees in these rural counties. Speaking of these counties and working remote or online, this might be a good opportunity to put in a plug for the Rural Online Initiative, or the ORI, that's administered through the Utah State University, that is training people how to work online. So this is their website, real quick, remoteworkcertificate.com, but honestly, if you just Googled and put the word rural in, you can type in ROI, it will pop up, or Rural Online Initiative comes up to this website. They're offering their Master Remote Work Professional Certificate course is for people who would like to work online, entrepreneurs, or people that want to work for businesses, and they have just begun leadership course. Just this week, actually, the Master Remote Work Leader Certificate course. And this is designed to offer organizational leaders the latest techniques and tools to manage and develop a remote team. So they've been a great partner as we've worked in trying to establish great jobs in these rural counties. So this is the REDI application process, the application and the entire process of what a business to get the REDI grant. First, apply online, submit and receive approval prior to creating the new positions. And that's really important to do it prior, because we need to establish how many employees the business has at the time of application so that we can show an increase after the new positions are filled. Then, after they have received approval, to hire within 6 months of that approval or a contract date. And the approval date and the contract date are actually the same date. It only takes about a week, really, for, once the application is received, to determine if the business is eligible, but it can take more time to establish an employee baseline count. So by setting the contract date at 1 week of the application date, this allows the businesses to not delay hiring. Sometimes we have companies that are ready to hire now. And so this is what this grant is so great, because it's pretty quick. It's just the application process is not difficult once they're approved. And if there's any question, feel free to contact us here at the Office of Rural Development, and we can verify if the approval is good and if they can start hiring. So the business then would need to pay at least 110% of the county's average wage. Oh wait, I think I skipped that. So you want to hire within 6 months of the approval date, which is also the contract date. What I wanted to say again about that is that you have 6 months to hire, and if you submit, say 10, like you project that you can create 10 positions, because this will be asked in the application, and you are not able to fill all 10 positions within the 6 months, but you still need to fill 2 more positions after the 6 months, then you'll need to apply again. And there's no limit to the amount of times you can apply as long as the funds are available. If you projected 10 positions and you fill those 10 positions within the 6 months, and then things are going really well and you want to hire a couple more people, apply again. So you only get funds for the amount that you've applied for. The funds are allocated, they're held, they're encumbered, and so another company might be getting some other funds. So you must project accurately as possible, and if you find that you can hire more, put in another application. You can apply again and again. There's no limit, as I said, as long as the funds are available. Now, the next step is once you've hired them, you need to be paying them at least 110% of the county's average wage. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. So the positions need to be full-time, 30 hours per week, or meeting the industry standards. So for instance, there's some seasonal work that as long as over time that they're putting in the hours over the year, that would equal a full-time position or 30 hours per week. You need to employ them for 6 to 12 consecutive months. And what we mean by at least 6 to 12 is that if after 6 months you can show an annualized wage, or meaning that shows, like with the pay stubs is what we'll ask for, that you can show that the employee will be getting 110% of the county's average wage, they can at 6 months request for the funds. It is a post-performance grant, which means they get the grant money, the business gets the grant money after they've hired the employee and have had them employed for at least the 6 months or 12 months. At 12 months, they need to be able to show that they have received 110% of the county's average wage for the year. It cannot be an immediate family member of an officer or owner of the business, so that would include a spouse, child, parent, sibling, grandparent, or grandchild, and those are what is considered immediate family members. And the eligible businesses are really everything and anything except not construction, retail, staffing, or public utilities. So these are a couple of constraints that are important to keep in mind. The business may only receive reimbursement for the number of positions that have been approved by GoEd for reimbursement. So I talked about this a little bit before. If you projected 10 and you hired 12, you're only going to get funds for the 10 positions because that's all that was allocated or encumbered or was held through the hiring and employing process. So if you anticipate hiring more, merely submit another application. And then the business cannot eliminate existing positions to make way for a new position. The new positions need to exceed the baseline count. Now, the baseline count is the starting point of the number of employees the business currently has to show an increase over the 6 to 12 month period. So you need to provide documentation at the application time, which includes the Department of Workforce Services quarterly reports and a full employee report. And I'm going to show you a little bit more about that later too. The REDI grant may be used concurrently with other GOED incentives, including the Rural Fast Track, the Enterprise Zone, the EdTIF, but they cannot be used for the same position. So for example, in the Rural Fast Track, you need to hire a new employee to get the grant or the capital reimbursement of the capital investment at 110% of the county's average wage. So you would need to hire for that position, but any other positions that are created, you could use the REDI grant. Those other positions, you could not stack them and get the Real Fast Track grant for the employees, but you could get the REDI grant, which gives you more money than using the Real Fast Track grant. So the REDI grant levels, how much money can a business get for each new position? Well, it depends on the county. So it's based on, it's calculated based on the percentage comparison of the county's average wage to the state's average wage. So we get $4,000 in a county where the average wage is equal to or greater than the state's average wage. $5,000 where the county average wage is 85 to 95% of the state's, and $6,000 where the average wage is less than 85% of the state average wage. And that's for each position. Now, if you're hiring a lot of employees, the business can get up a total of up to $250,000 in any fiscal year of the state. Now, the state's fiscal year, be aware, is July 1 to June 31, if there's 31 days in June. Nope, there's only 30. I did that wrong. So you can't have that extra day. There's only July 1 to June 30th is the state's fiscal year. So be aware of that. And we only have so many funds allocated in the year, and we have a lot of businesses that are hiring a lot of employees, and they're actually coming really close to this amount. So need to be sure and apply in advance to make sure there are funds available. But this is renewed every year, and it's going well and going strong. Okay, here is REDI grant levels chart that shows the counties, the eligible counties with their average wage and the minimum required wage of 110% of the county's average wage to be eligible for the REDI grant, and the amount offered to the businesses creating the new positions relative. So for example, Beaver, the 110% of that county's average wage is $39,417, which is significantly lower than that on the Wasatch Front, which is idealistic for businesses there, and they would get $6,000 for each new position. Okay, I wanted to show you, hopefully quick, the REDI application. This link, business.utah.gov, will take us to our GOED's website. And I wanted to show you, we've changed this a little bit. You'll want to go to Business Services, and under Business Services is the Rural Economic Development link. And this will take you to our webpage outlining the map of where the programs are eligible and the different programs and incentives. And come down here to the Rural Economic Development Incentive. And on this tab, we have here a brief explanation of the REDI grant. Right here is the flyer that tells you a little more, or the same information as we have here. Oh, right here, we have a great little link to a video that shows an individual in Utah Basin who successfully works online. It's a great little video. And down here is where we have our list of information. This is more detailed information and instructions for this REDI grant. I'm hoping I've given you just about everything in this webinar that you can read here, but it's in more detail, a little bit more government-eased language, but it provides detailed information that if you have any more questions, that's a good place to go. So right here we have the REDI application. It's not hard. Once again, briefly, here's the information and the table. And then basically you're just entering the company's information, your primary contact, your secondary contact. One of these contacts will be the individual that will go on the contract. So be sure and include them. And if not, just let us know. So on this page, you will be able to list the county where you anticipate to hire. Well, and the number of full-time positions that are projected to be created. And we want you to enter here the minimum annual wage. You can see right here we have this little calculator. So it's calculating that in Beaver County you would get $6,000 for each of the positions. So you've put in 2 positions. So your projected for the grant is $12,000. Now, let's say you're setting up a satellite offices, and so you are hiring in another county, and we want you to be sure and enter that one. So here in Grand County, 2 more positions, the wage here, and again, it calculates it. So you'll see that if we put in a county, say like Morgan, their value is a little bit different. Whoops, it doesn't want me to submit it yet. Oh no, failure. Okay, I don't know why it did that. So we'll just go back and we'll start it again. And I don't want that one. There's a lot of rural programs, so don't be sure and click on the right R1. The rural, there we go. Here's my application. Technology, you love it. It's not always perfect, but we can skip those pages now that I've already showed them to you. Here, we will need some documentation. Form 33H, Department of Workforce Services. This is just an example of what the form looks like. Each business should have their own, unless they're using a third-party payroll employer, and then we will need their forms. Also included is an employee baseline form. Now, this form we do provide, and we want you to use this. It's in an Excel spreadsheet. This is the instructions, and this is what the instruction page looks like. This is the first tab, and it is basically just going to put in the employee's name, title, the date they're hired, terminated if that happened, what they were paid, and how many hours for the year that they worked. This will show whether they're a part-time or a full-time employee. We're not only going to count full-time employees when we're getting the baseline. Now, the baseline, like I said, just tells us how many employees you have currently employed at the time of application. If you have 10, and then after 12 months, you'll submit the same form, we'll see, oh, now you have 12 full-time employees. And this is the form that you will be submitting. You can populate this, you can then save it as a PDF and then upload it in to this form, and then your entity's W-9 form. And we'll see, okay, and here we are. So again, I want to show you one more thing. I'm shutting down. I want to show you, well, it's not taking me to that page. I want to show you that you have the very same application that you will go to the same website after the 6 months at the annualized wage or at 12 months. Oh, and see, sometimes it pulls it up on the side. So this is good. It lets us know that there's a different way to get here. It's business services, remember, rural economic development. And it's ready. So we have here when you, at the end of the employment or 12 months, hopefully you'll keep the employee, but let's say you've gone the full 12 months because you probably, maybe you hired them, and when you hired them, they're a new employee, so you weren't paying them the full wage, and so they got raises, or as they gained experience, or as the employee received training, they have increased their wages. And so by the end of 12 months, now you have been able to pay them 110% of the county's average wage. This is what you will need to do, just to fill out this form briefly, but the documentation that is required is a letter of request written on company letterhead. And we'd like to have in this letter for you to state that we've completed it. This is the number of employees. This was their wage. This is the county or counties where they were hired. And please give us this total amount, grant amount, and I'm signing it saying I'm verifying that we really did do this. There will be a full employee report, and then depending on if it's 6 months or 12 months, you will have a couple of different submissions. And you need to be sure and read through all of this. And then after you read it, not as quickly as I did, you'll want to read it slowly, click yes, and then you'll go to the next page and our basic information really quick of company and who is the primary responsible person. So I just wanted to share this with you. So after you've read the requirements, you're going to be either applying at least at 6 months or somewhere in between to 12 months. So if it's at 12 months, you click here, this pops up the information that we're asking that's required. So you're going to have your new full employee and new employee report. And this is, I'm going to stay, I'm not going anywhere, but it will not really take you away. It's 2 forms, but there's 3 tabs. The first tab is the instructions, and the next 2 tabs are the reports, and they're all attached. And then again, the 33H form, and then the letter of request, and then stating the number of positions filled. If you click on this one, the 6 month actually pulls them both up. That's why I'm saying, please just choose one of these. So if we're going to report at 6 months, then it is the 6 month tab, and you will complete that. I think that covers the application and request for information forms. Just brief summary real quick. So on the REDI application, you need to submit the application prior to hiring. The full employee report needs to be completed. That is provided. You'll need to submit your DWS or Department of Workforce Services 33H form for the last quarters from the application date. And a current W-9, please make sure that it's signed. We've gotten a few that weren't signed, and it kind of slows things down just a little bit, but there is a line about 2/3 of the way down that it needs to be signed. And then at the end of this application is a certified signature from a company officer, which actually is a box that you're going to check, but it's stating that this is from an officer of the company, and yes, this is true and accurate information. Once that's been submitted, give me about a week, and usually the approval is set at that time. It may not come that quickly, so if you don't get an email within 2 weeks, give us a call, email us and say, hey, is this getting processed? Or can I go ahead and hire? Because I've had some businesses that said, look, we are ready to hire. We need to hire now. I will check to make sure that the approvals are through, and you could probably go ahead and hire unless there's any real issues or concerns. It takes a while to get the baseline count. Some of the businesses, it's sometimes a challenge just because of just for various reasons, but there also is a lot of work their compliance department is doing because this is not their only incentive that they have to manage. There's many at the GoEd office, and so they're dealing with a lot. But you will eventually get an email approval, and then you will reply to this email approval saying, I've reviewed the contract, looks good, I want to sign, and then you will be sent an electronic DocuSign contract, and you will sign electronically. After the 6 or 12 months, this is kind of a recap, you will submit this letter of request, a full employee report, the same report, and a new employee report. We'll just list the new employees. And then one of the following. You'll click on either the 12-month or the 6-month, and with the 12-month, you are going to be providing the DWS 33H form. The 6-month, and I didn't say this before, so I'm glad we have this recap, you will submit the DWS 33H form and copies of the new eligible employees' pay stubs at 2, 4, and 6 months. So that's the only additional thing. We'll want to be able to see that they are getting those wages. Now remember, there is a 90-day deadline to submit the request, and this 90 days follows that 6-month window of time to hire and follows the entire 12 months that they would hire after the last day of the 6th month of the last employee. So there's plenty of time, and then we want just one request per contract. So if you had to apply again for another application, that's okay. Then that would be 2 requests. But if you have 6 employees, we don't need a request coming in after the first employee's been hired after 12 months and the second one and the third one. No, it'll be after all of those employees have been hired, you've had them all for 12 months, and then you will submit that request. Wow. Are there any questions? And if there aren't, I'm really surprised because I felt like I just flew through that. We are happy to take any questions here at the Office of Rural Development here at GoEd. The website again is business.utah.gov. If you hit /rural, then that will take you right to that rural page. And then this is our email, goedruralprograms@utah.gov, and the phone number. And if you can email or call this number, if you have a specific question for the REDI grant, you will get directed to me, and I'm happy to help. That's all, Nan.
Thank you, Rebecca. That was wonderful. Good, really good detail. You did such a great job. We actually don't have any questions at this point, but I have one. So let's say my company maxes out for REDI grants the first year. Can I come back with my new, let's say I'm going to hire 50 new employees the second year. Can I come back again to apply for REDI for that second year's new hires?
Yes, so the $250,000 is per fiscal year of the state's fiscal year. So if you are hiring right now until June 30th, and you are hiring 40, 45 employees, depending upon the county, that's going to max you out to that 250,000. And then July 1, you're ready to hire some more, get an application in, get another one in, and yes, you would be potentially eligible for the next 250,000. It is capped at 250,000, and we have only so many funds, so there's certainly an advantage to being first in the year. And also be aware, and I hope this was clear, because there's a question we had from a couple of businesses last year who projected that they would hire a high number, say like 40 positions. And then there was, for one reason or another, they weren't able to hire all of those positions before the end of the year, but they had already allocated all of those funds. So we just have an option in the contract now that they're able to amend the contract so they can, pull back, revise the contract, just communicate with us. That's really important. Just let us know, say, hey, we're only able to hire 20 of the 40. We need to amend the contract because those funds are encumbered. And as long as those funds are encumbered, we can't allocate them to another business. We can't allocate them to you again, because that would put you over your 250,000 max. So it's important to communicate with us. We'll amend the contract. Then you can apply again after the 6 months, and that will give you another 6 months to hire and reach that cap.
Great.
Does that help?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And let me give one more shout out to the audience to see if anyone has any additional questions. Let's see. It doesn't look like we've got any additional questions coming through. So let me wrap up by saying all of us on the rural development team are here to help answer your questions and to help you as primarily county economic development directors get the word out on our rural programs to your businesses. So with that, thank you all again. We really appreciate your participation. Thank you, Rebecca, for a great job, and everybody have a great day.
Thanks.